Welcome back to Combat Sports Weekly. Joining us now is a sports performance coach here out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Jared Saavedra with Athlete Ready. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so how long have you been doing the whole sports performance thing for?
Well, I've been working with athletes for about 5 years now, ranging from my days at UNM, getting my master's at UNM. I was working with the athletes there. Just started getting into the MMA scene as of late, but working with youth athletes for the last 2 years now.
Yeah, now you brought up MMA fighters, and I understand you also work with some boxers. So how are they different from the normal athlete, the high school volleyball player, soccer player?
I mean, they have the killer instinct. They're professionals at what they do. They work hard every single day. They get after it. You never have to ask them for effort. They almost work too hard sometimes, and I have to try to scale them back just a tad. But they love to work. So,
what's it like working with some of these guys? Because you're working with guys who are ranked, internationally, like Ray Borg, obviously other fighters like Michelle Watterson, Donald Sanchez, of course, who we spoke about earlier.
It's a great experience. Great experience. I never thought, just a year ago I'd be working with fighters, especially the high-level fighters that I do have. They're great athletes. It's been a joy to really learn from them. I probably learn more from them than they learn from me, and I'm constantly evolving as well along with them. But it's been great.
Now, how does that word of mouth kind of spread around? Because usually, you were working with some UNM players, you were working with some high school students. So for your name to spread like that, how does that happen?
Yeah. So like? one of my friends who was training fighters, he decided to do something else with his career, and he sent me the fighter that he had, which is Donald Sanchez. And ever since then, it just kind of spread like wildfire, and Donald's seen a lot of improvement, working with me. So it just went from there.
Now, what is one thing they have in common? I don't want to necessarily call it deficiency, but what's one thing you notice in combat sports that's, I guess, you see commonly other athletes do well in the other sports?
Definitely footwork, agility, and speed. There's a definite lack of that in combat athletes from what I've seen. So I've kind of found this whole niche, and working with their agility, working on their footwork, and as their camp goes on, getting more sport specific with that footwork. But I've noticed a definite need for that with them. A lot of them are kind of, they're a little bit robotic as they move, and they're really stiff instead of being super loose. And then you look at the champions who are very smooth, the Demetrius Johnson, the John Jones. They're very smooth in their movement, and that's why they're high-level athletes regardless of what sport they are.
Yeah,
so.
And you mentioned that. One guy that comes to my mind is heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder, who used to play basketball and all of a sudden jumped in, so it was easy for him to get the transition
Definitely.
of the footwork.
Yes, athletes going from either soccer or basketball, they have a definite edge over other athletes of other sports, as far as footwork is concerned.
You've also been working with the Holmes brothers, Brandon and Patrick Holmes Jr., and you got to go, I believe it was your first boxing event this past weekend to see them at Buffalo Thunder.
Yes,
what did you think?
It was awesome. It was awesome. They put on a great show. Buffalo Thunder did a great job of hosting that event. I had a whole different thing in my mind before going there. Super classy event. Patrick and Brandon, they showed up. They definitely showed up that night.
What was it like to see, I guess, the sport that you don't normally do, and then those guys that you've trained? Let's see your work put into, display.
It's very encouraging. It motivates me tremendously. The whole fight, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. So I'm constantly looking at their movement, what they're doing, what they lack, stuff like that, so I can kind of implement it. Trying to be a fan at the same time, because I had never been at a event like that so close up. So I was just trying to do my best to enjoy it, but also kind of pick some pieces with me.
Who would be your ideal guy to work with if you think about boxing or MMA, and not just because of how famous they are, but because of some of the skills they already have, and maybe those one or two things you can pick apart to see that they need work on?
I would love to work with Holly Holm.
Yeah.
I would love to work with her, and, her footwork, her agility, her her lateral movement. That would be one that I would really love to, especially for this fight. It's gonna be a challenge for her. She's an amazing athlete, but I would love to add any kind of dimension to what she's already doing.
Now, you also studied, you've had a chance to go away from New Mexico and study and then bring some of that knowledge back. Where are some of the places you study, and why is it important for you to bring that knowledge back to where you're from?
It's very, very important. The place that I learned the most from, by far, I learned more in this 6 months than I ever learned in my 7 years of college and all through my certifications, was at a place called Exos. Exos is the best, is the top of the line sport performance company in the world. You know, they work with the German national team, and now they just signed a big deal with the UFC. And now that they're sending UFC fighters to Phoenix, to the headquarters, and they're kind of learning their methodology and their training system and stuff that they're doing for recovery, for their nutrition, all that stuff is a whole 180 from what the fighters' mentality that they've had before. And now them going to see Exos live, they're able to really pick pieces that they were missing in their game. And I mean, Exos is top of the line. And so I went through their whole sport performance education program, and I mean, it was a grind. I got to work with a lot of skilled athletes then. And so I brought a lot of their system, their training system to Albuquerque. So I'm really trying to get everything all in line and get all the resources together to provide the best service I can for my youth athletes and the professional athletes I have.
When you were younger, you were also an athlete. Obviously, you played football in high school. So what made you ultimately continue on to the different route of sports performance as opposed to, you know, following, I guess, the dream of actually being a professional athlete?
I mean, I was definitely a fairly decent athlete growing up. I got very humbled having 2 ACL reconstructive surgeries. My sophomore year, my senior year kind of limited me from, college exposure, a lot of things. So after that, I got into, physical education, coaching and stuff. And then once I started really working with athletes at UNM while I was getting my master's, then I just kind of fell in love with it then. And it's weird that, even though I'm in a coaching role, it's almost more gratifying for me to watch like the younger kids and the athletes that I do work with, to see them succeed. It's more gratifying to me to watch them succeed, a bunch of them, than just myself.
Yeah, and before we let you go, we want to make sure if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they hit you up at?
If you want to reach out to me, my email is coachjared@athleteready.com. You could also follow me on Instagram, athleteready. And other than that, I mean,
and the website, right?
Website, www.athleteready.com.
You got a lot of cool pictures where you're training a lot of these guys, different activities and different drills.
Right,
so.
right. A lot of footwork, a lot of visuals. I like to give visuals of what I do. I like to give a lot of kind of instructional stuff on what I do and how it's different than just strength conditioning, than just personal training. It's different.
Yeah, well, best of luck with Athlete Ready. Jared Saavedra, make sure you guys hit him up. Keep an eye out for him with all the MMA and boxing going on here locally. I'm sure he's going to become a name. So after this, we got the roundtable going on, so we'll catch you guys after the break.